first session of the day, best session of the day. I'm John, I'm from Buzzfeed. I like cats and dogs. I was pushed with reference to dogs. I collect shares, Scandinavian, British. I have 2 baby girls. I support wicked wanderers. So some of my deepest, darkest secrets there. So hopefully that gives you the opportunity to feel comfortable asking questions. So today I want to talk to you about distributing content. So this is a masterclass about distribution and content. It looks at kind of trends and hopefully gives you a lot of information to take away and use for your own. I'd love it if you really did ask questions, throw shoes, abuse, keeps it a bit interactive. So yeah, let's crack on. So first and foremost, I wanted to ask you a question. I'm not going to make you massage each other's shoulders, which happened here yesterday. But, quick question to everyone in the room. Can anyone tell me what this is? Who this is and what this is?
Alice in Wonderland.
Alice.
Facepalm.
Facepalm.
Yeah. So the facepalm. So it's Alice in Wonderland. So this is kind of like sets the tone for what I wanted to talk about, because actually what we're seeing here is actually a growing trend, a reaction that we will have when we see content and we actually tell a story about ourselves and our feelings through images. So this growth in using of images and GIFs and emojis is something that we really identify with at Buzzfeed, and it allows us to express something that potentially words can often not express. So for example, when you go and get your morning coffee and you've been looking forward to it all night, and you say, today is going to be a great day, here's my coffee, and then this happens, it's a bit shit. So the way you express that sometimes can't often happen in words, and it happens with a facepalm. So what we're seeing is actually the rise of image and the rise of telling these stories through short form represents the way that we behave on the social web, because actually it breaks down all borders. We don't need language. So for anyone to see this in Brazil or in Russia or in Britain, it means the same thing. You don't need language to translate it. So I'm going to give you a few more examples of this just to warm you up for the session. So that awkward moment will make Anna get a new tattoo.
Yeah.
How do you tell that story? How do you kind of express the feeling that you have? And for those in the back, it doesn't really say Anna, but you do this. You kind of like tell a story through a GIF or through this emoji. So again, it translates so easily because of what this image and GIF means. So a few more. What about, does anyone do this? I mean, at Buzzfeed, maybe it's just Buzzfeed, but anyone that joins a company, you probably get about 60 to 150 GIFs in your inbox welcoming someone new. Does anyone get that in the company? Yeah. So when someone new joins your team, no one says anything with words. It's just huge images that block up your whole inbox. And they look like this. So you're telling a story about saying hi to someone. Generally speaking, they're all a bit weird. There are a lot of old people working at Buzzfeed. There's 2 over there in the corner. So this image sort of tells that I'm saying hi, but I'm a bit awkward. I'm going on holiday next week to Greece. The weather looks really good. So how do I tell that story? How do I kind of give my emotions to everyone on the web? It's with excitement, and one of my favourite GIFs of all time is a young boy who's a bit hot, smothering ice cream on his face. So it kind of, again, it's kind of not really loving going on holiday, but I'm excited because it's going to be hot. The annoying thing is that the day after this, it starts raining. So obviously that time that you put a hamster on your head, because clearly that's what we do a lot. Or that time that you, of course, fired watermelon from a catapult. So the way that we kind of express that story is now an emoji. It's a crying emoji. We don't need that language that we once used, because this rise in use, and I think the platforms have facilitated this. Now we can post GIFs onto Facebook, and actually the rise in the search for GIFs has risen by about 10 times since 2012. So it again expresses the way that we're actually, that social is breaking down so that barriers and countries and language. So when some boring guy presents you GIFs at 9 o'clock on a Thursday morning at a social media conference, what do? You just tell someone with a story face and a gun to your head, but it does get better. So this kind of frames what I want to talk about this masterclass session, which is essentially looking at 4 things. A little bit about Buzzfeed, for those of you that don't know, but importantly our model and why we've been successful and what we do when it comes to content, distributed content, and short form content in particular. The pillars that we have of success, and I wanted to sort of share some learnings with you on that. A look at content trends, and specifically content trends now, not yesterday, not in the future, but what we know last week, and that changes on such a regular basis, so I wanted to share some of that. And distribution trends, how we can move that content into a distributed field, and what we're seeing from a publisher perspective, and hopefully kind of you can take something away from that too. So what is Buzzfeed? So hopefully most people are aware of what we are and who we are. Anyone that doesn't? So Buzzfeed's been around actually for quite some time now, about 9 years. We were conceived by Jonah Peretti, who co-founded the Huffington Post. It was born out of a tech and content sort of idea platform. This chap, Jonah, is a genius, and he's obsessed with network theory, how content moves from one platform to another. And we're now in a position that we're one of the fastest growing news and entertainment sites in the world. We have over 200 million global unique users. We have about sort of 19 million in the UK, and it still continues to grow. We have a team of a video team based in LA, about 170 people creating about 65, 70 videos a week. We're doing 2 billion video views a month. So you can see that the size of the business is growing massively, but really importantly, 75% of all of our traffic comes from social. So it really kind of begs the question about whether you would be important on the .com now. But this is kind of sums up what we do and what we stand for, which is a global media company for how people do and will communicate in the future. Does anyone remember this? Anyone? Hands up? Quite a reasonable amount, okay. Do you remember what year it was? Sorry?
2011.
90s. Yeah, 96. So it's a long time ago, right? I mean, I remember seeing this and I thought it was funny, but when I saw it recently, I realised how creepy it is. It's a really weird thing. But at the time, this was a really important tipping point in the world of social content and distribution, because social didn't exist, but people shared this image based on it meaning something to them. It kind of had a purpose, and it moved across the web at a high rate because of the emotional attachment people had and what it said about them and what they wanted to do with it. So it's a really important framework for how we've started to learn and iterate as a business. So we took this, and as again, we took lots of examples from the 90s into the 2000s to actually make our business better. So as you can kind of see, from 2009 up until beyond 2012, we tested a huge amount of information, all sorts of formats. So we the classic Buzzfeed is 12 basset hounds running, and we've evolved into hard news, breaking news, investigations. We looked at formats like illustrations and custom GIFs. Quizzes became really popular sort of in 2012. Then mobile really kind of influenced our business, and we had to adapt really, really quickly. And then we moved on into sort of the current day with video is a massive, massive part of BuzzFeed's current and future, with BuzzFeed Motion Pictures based in LA. We're trying challenges to basically influence people's life offline as well as online. We interviewed Barack Obama. We got Barack Obama to use a selfie stick. We interviewed David Cameron before the general election. So you can see, as a business, we've tested lots of things. It's not just one thing, and I think it's important to see this journey as we've grown as a business, because it's not simply one thing. We're not just lists, as many people believe, but actually the biggest growth is in news, in investigations. Now that kind of stuff is expensive. It doesn't make money for a business, but actually we believe that to have a well-balanced media company, you need news. You need to represent what's happening in the UK in finance and in politics. So I kind of touched on this, but this is essentially the areas that we sit within. So Buzzfeed Buzz, which is that kind of fun stuff we all wasted our time with at uni and at work. Buzzfeed Life, which is an amazingly fast-growing part of the business, which involves food and lifestyle and hacks. Buzzfeed News, which Heidi Blake presented yesterday, if anyone saw it, one of our amazing investigations journalists from the Sunday Times who wrote the FIFA files. That is an area that you can see a lot of investment in from Buzzfeed. Buzzfeed Motion Pictures, led by Zay Frank, this genius who is in LA, and he's supported by Michael Schamberg, who, for any film geeks in the house, produced Django Unchained and Pulp Fiction. Erin Brockovich now works at Buzzfeed. And BFF, so this is our distribution. These are teams of people that are simply exploring ways content is consumed across multiple platforms. And all that information comes back into our business, and we tell the journalists, we influence the rest of the business. So at any one time we're creating about 800 pieces of content a day. We're doing about 70 videos a week, so lots of stuff is being churned out into the business. We're a snapshot of where we are across the world now. The UK is the second biggest market, really closely followed by Brazil, booming in terms of our social traffic. Japan, we're launching at the end of the year with a Yahoo partnership. So you can kind of see now we're not just an American company, but actually having local teams in Germany and Spain allows us to understand behaviour on a social context across Europe. So this is, I guess, a snapshot of what the model is really. So we create content, we create stuff, we distribute it, and we look at its impact. But right at the centre of that is three things. It's the talent, people doing stuff, and that is the most important thing. People creating things, supported by the technology that is told on, and then learning from the data that we get back from it. So as a model, I wanted to sort of touch on these three things and hopefully give you a bit of information about what we know to be true and what we can kind of like help shape brands, businesses. So people making stuff in it, and this is we were always born out of a vertically integrated model, which is a vertical stack of stuff, and that is us doing things. That is when we first started, everyone said to Jonah, "You don't need to buy a CMS, Jonah. We can just buy it in. We don't need to create it." And he was insistent that everything we did, we built, because it allowed us to adapt. And so when mobile became, the hottest thing, we could move our business really quickly to adapt to mobile. So everything that we have, we own. And this looks, from a publishing perspective, this is quite interesting, because when you look at our integration and how we publish, it comes into people making stuff at the very heart, and then we publish onto the web, and we get learnings back. We publish onto apps, we get learnings back, and if we publish into a distributed world, into Snapchat, into Vines, into Tumblrs, we're constantly getting information back into the business. So of those 800 pieces of content a day, everything has a purpose, everything has a learning. Now, traditional models don't have that. So when you create content and you stick it into a newspaper, it's a dead end, you get nothing from it. So the way Buzzfeed is as a business, this is the most important thing, because we will just become better publishers, better creators because of it. Quickly, as you can see, because of this investment, we're seeing about 3 billion page views per month. And the question that probably runs through everything, and runs through this presentation is how can we have a bigger impact? How can we have a bigger impact on the world? How can we have a bigger impact on our numbers? And it starts here, and it starts through a referral to Buzzfeed. So Buzzfeed doesn't make money by people being on the site. There's no banners on there, it's just a content model. It's branded content. So we don't care where people consume content. And that's the most important thing. Traditional publishers, you need people on your website to make money. So everyone's obsessed with moving back to microsites and to big websites in general. But that's just not the way we behave. It's not the way we consume content now. So on an average month, take Facebook for example, we do 350 million views from Facebook into Buzzfeed every month. But interestingly, if we look at the impressions in the stream, impressions of that content elsewhere, we're doing 11.3 billion. So it's like 32 times more impressions of that content elsewhere, which begs the question that, you know, how important is that, those 350 million, if we're doing so many more elsewhere? So this is, when we saw this, we realized actually that distribution is so important. And it comes with a, when we create tweets, we screenshot just more information in those tweets. You don't need people to click back to Buzzfeed to consume it, to be entertained. So picking up on these individual sections, I'm going to touch on create first, and creation, and hopefully that kind of give you some context to how we build, how we create, how the journalists write our content. And we look at how brands should connect with patients, the way they connect with each other. And it, in a way, it has a formula. And this kind of breaks it down in sort of smaller pieces. But if you look at it, we take a theme, we take a share statement from social. We take the format that it plays in, that it works in. We look at the platform that it should sit within, that has the greatest resonance. And then we find that audience. That gives you your idea. That is where we create content, and we work retrospectively, but this is essentially how it's extremely successful and how we've become one of the biggest media companies in the world. So taking theme, there's three key share statements that we have. The first of which is identity. So we share things, you share things because of who you are and what you identify with. So anyone sitting down, but is anyone short ladies? So things you identify with being short, maybe vertically challenged, right? So an image like this, you would recognise, right? If a few nods. Yeah. So mirrors that are slightly too high for you, or having to get annoying to having to climb on your work surfaces to get something from the cupboards. Yeah. Supermarket shelves, everything being on the top shelf and having to ask someone to get it for you. That is a function that you identify with because of who you are. So you share content like this because you're telling other people that this is what you suffer from, or other people share it with you because they're saying that is so you, or this is so me. So creating content like 30 awkward moments, every short girl understands an identity. It works for you because you're telling a story. So where you work, the club you support, or you're interested in, they are identity-based content. And that is a core share statement. So over the past 8 years, we've identified 3 key things that we see time and time again about purpose, about why someone shares something. So when we look at content, and hopefully this is a bit of learnings that we've taken from that, we look about finding a niche audience. That is less broad, but actually finding that kind of real uniqueness that you have that maybe someone else has as well. Making readers feel special, making them feel that is so me. Also, making a reader feel part of your community and part of this web that every short girl understands. That's a community feel. And then, if you're publishing, if you're creating content, then surprising with that tiny thing that only they will get. That's such a specific trait that sometimes you don't realise that other people share that. So the second theme is emotion. We share things because the way we feel, or the way we want people to make us feel. So my wife, anytime she's feeling down, I'll send her a picture of a dog. A dog cuddling someone, she's even better. That is a surefire moment to make her feel better, to make her feel a bit warmer inside. Because that's the way we behave as humans. We want people to be feeling a certain way. We want people to be empathetic. So dogs cuddling people is a successful trait. It's a successful piece of content. So this is a classic. Someone's puppy when they're a young person, and then there's a problem. No R's in the you're all really hard. What about babies? So emotional content, it doesn't just have to be cats and dogs. It can be about a great story that makes you feel a bit warm, or something that it does share your empathetic needs. Just all the feels. So when it comes to emotion, ask yourselves, what would you share on a Sunday morning? Maybe it's not that emotional, but using visuals that make people feel positive, uplifting, makes them laugh, that's an emotional trait, that's an emotional share state. And if you can provide an emotional gift to someone, if you can say, this is how you're feeling bad, but I'm going to make you feel better, that's a really positive way for someone to feel good about themselves. And it doesn't have to just be on a linear form, it could be an image, it could be a video, and that's something that we're kind of going to touch on a little bit more as we go through this. So the third theme is information. Now, I'm going to show you a video that has changed my life. It's very, very simple. It's called 6 Fruits You're Eating Wrong. Relatively simple, but it's an information-based content. So we have this inherent desire to learn, right? We want to be better at things. We want to understand maybe simpler things with you. Now, I'm not a big eater of pomegranates, simply because they're such a vast appeal. I realise that sounds extremely middle-class. I have to feel a pomegranate, but this changed my life. I'm kind of scared to try the watermelon one, but it doesn't appeal to me. But when it comes to information-based content, like I said, there is this inherent desire to learn, but if you're giving something useful and it allows them to learn, they're going to share it. They're going to share it with friends because it makes them look intelligent. They may not be intelligent, but it makes them. Don't be afraid to reaffirm to readers. We all love a humble brag. These last 2 points are quite interesting. Making common knowledge look uncommon, and making learning uncommon knowledge feel attainable. That is 2 really kind of interesting traits when you think about the content you're producing. Does it do these things? If it does, and you're sort of matching that sort of formula, and then so you're onto a good thing. So when the next sort of part of that equation, if you like, is the format that it takes. Now, this kind of comes into the distribution model that purpose of this presentation about, looking at how that manifests itself across multiple platforms. Again, an essential part of your marketing mix as a brand. What does it look like? Whether that's a video on mobile, is it a shorter form, is it a Vine, is it a quiz, is it an animated GIF? Some other examples of things we do, we've tested, flat tips and actually how-tos or video formats that we've seen around couples doing things. They're all formats that this content can play in. And then it comes to platform. Where does that, once you've got those sort of 3 things, where does it go then? Where do you manifest yourself? Where do you distribute it to? And these are some insights that I wanted to share with you guys about the amount of content we share. It is vast, but what works on different platforms? So when it comes to information-based content, see the stuff about you're eating the fruits wrong, where is that most shared? We tend to see that most shared on Pinterest, because that's where people are spending their time, that's where they want to learn. It's more image-based, it's more casual, less so on Facebook. The information doesn't work as well. So when the journalists and when we create branded content, we're thinking of this and where we're actually putting that information. When it comes to identity, so awkward moments, only short girls will understand, actually Facebook is the greatest success. We have the greatest success with identity content. And probably the reason for that is that you share it with someone else. So you tag someone else and move that content at a high rate. That's probably the reason we see that content work across. Unless Pinterest, not so much. And then it comes to emotion. Emotion is generally pretty even. If anything, it leans towards Twitter, because maybe that's got that breaking news element, but generally speaking, we see quite an even balance across emotion and content. So when you look at that equation and that content equation, in general, we ask, we encourage you to ask yourselves, would you share it? And that's the first thing we ever ask any of our advertisers, or any journalists, would that content be shared? Is it human? And is it relevant? Then you can look at all those kind of functions about theme, format, platform, and audience. And if you're doing all those and you're ticking those boxes, then you're in a really strong place. So that was create. That was about how we create content. Feel free to ask questions now at the end. But next up is distribution. This example looks more about how we're doing it. Happily sort of take questions on this, but this is about finding content, finding people where they actually are, and it's relatively simple. I'm sure you're very aware of it. But the way we do it is that we find the audience most likely to engage with your content, and we send it to them where they are. It makes sense. It's relatively simple. So how it works with us. And Buzzfeed as a business is we look at two things. We look at on-site distribution and off-site. Now, 75% of all our traffic is coming from off-site, and that's potentially going to grow. So actually, that is such an important element of the business, and shows why all of our numbers have shot up, because we have this ability to manifest content across multiple platforms. But from an on-site perspective, it looks like this. It looks like native in a position that is published. So we don't charge for content, we just create ads. We create that content for free, generally speaking. And then we publish it, and it looks like this. And web in general, websites in general don't give you a lot of targeting possibilities, as you're all aware. So we have to be creative, we have to target the click, and we have to use other scenarios and other sort of planning that makes our content resonate in a better way. So we use technology to do that. So the technology at Buzzfeed allows us to create multiple headlines, multiple images, and we're publishing on an instant basis to find the most effective. So you can see down this right hand side, for one article we're using lots of different images, lots of different headlines, and the top one has reached the top is a rare 4.2.
How many headlines do you think you've got going?
Probably between 10 and 15. The kind of numbers. The journalists have a very different approach. Sometimes they'll use less. The really interesting thing is that the effect of a headline changes almost like on a monthly basis. So not so long ago we were saying how important it was to have an X and a Y to your content, but actually last week that changes. So some of the examples I'll show you later is the trends we see from an editorial perspective. Rapid, really rapid, and we have to adapt it. So some journalists have one view of it. We give all this information to them, but from a commercial perspective, we're probably doing about 10 to 15 every piece. Off-site distribution looks like this. So we're managing all within our own technology. This is the dashboard. This is what it looks like. But we're finding. This is designed to find, to optimize towards the share. So we want the most amount of people sharing this content as possible. And then based on that success, it looks like this across all these platforms. And then we have this ability, because social is so vast, to target real specifics, people that follow certain accounts and behave in certain ways and enjoy certain things. That's where we're finding that audience. We very much talk about internally about how good content finds its audience. So if that content about short girls is going to find short women, because they're the people that are most likely to read it. So we often talk about how that content over-indexes versus that audience. So it's less about targeting is important, the distribution is important, but that content will find you, because you're not typing into Google anymore, this is the content I'm trying to find, because of who you are, because of your Facebook profile, that content is naturally occurring in your feed. So that's how it works from a distribution perspective. We find the audience most likely through engage. So lastly on this sort of trio is impact. Something, this is probably the most important thing for me, is that we should measure success by real world impact and what we can learn from it. So doing good things, being a good media company is really, really important. It must be. But when it comes to content, we look at reach. So having a big reach is important, because that's how you can show success. And then we look at the relevance. Is this content relevant to people? Is it part of their lives? Are they enjoying it? Do they start engaging with it? So this engagement shows that about 21% of content, all articles shared by millennials come from Buzzfeed. So it's a huge amount of people, and actually this engagement really allows us to shape our future business, because we're taking these content, we're reading this information, and we're shaping future content. So when it comes to content, branded content in particular, 13 ways, you didn't know you could use baking soda, relatively benign, quite simple piece of content, but actually what we're finding is that people are telling us their story, telling us actually you're wrong, you've forgotten this, which we're trying to encourage. We want people to disagree. Some of the most successful content we've ever produced, the dress, for example, we got a story that was broke in February this year. It did about 30 million views in 24 hours. The reason it was so successful and it was such a benign story was because no one agreed with it. It didn't have one answer. It was clearly white and gold, but it didn't have one answer to everybody. And that's why it was so successful. So when it comes to things like, what's the nicest thing strangers have done for you? We find that people are telling us their stories and actually saying, no, what someone's done for me is even better. That engagement is really core to not just commercial business, but actually the editorial business as well. Some of my favourite things that we're doing as a business, and why I love Buzzfeed so much, is that we're having an impact on the world, and that's a core principle to the founding partners, that we should be doing good things as a media business. We should be balanced, but actually we should be chasing the bad guys. So this is a piece of content written by an amazing journalist who is often on the ground in Syria and the Middle East, about how ISIS smuggle oil across borders. It was compelling, very interesting article. It was a story that was broken by him, by his investigation. But the impact it had was even greater. So the follow-up article was about how Turkish forces cracked down on oil smugglers after our investigation. Again, we're making changes, we're trying to do our bit to make the world a better place. And I think that applies to a lot of the investigations team here. A story that broke not so long ago, the most recent example of that is the kids company, a story that was again originated at Buzzfeed, that we were sort of exploring what was happening in the funds, and actually it went to government and the investigation really kicked off from it. It was a huge news story about a month ago. But again, what we're doing and what we're poking into is doing good things, and I think that really underlies the business as an impact. But we can still have fun with it, right? We can still have impacts in people's lives that isn't as serious. So this is some examples of a piece of content called the Clean Eating Challenge. Some of the girls in the office did it. It sounded awful, but it was a challenge that we created and we posed. But having an effect on people's life online is important. But if you can have an effect of their life offline, it's even better. If you can delve into their experiences offline, that's what it would really happen. So you can see they will post some pictures back to us, or their Instagram, and then making the recipes and stuff. So that kind of sums up the model that we have and the learnings that we can share. What I now wanted to talk about is some of the trends we're seeing in content currently. So what have we learned and how do we learn about this? And this comes from editorial learners, this comes from data that we have, but it also comes from people. You know, what are they seeing? What works and what doesn't work? Again, that all feeds back into this loop to make us better publishers. So I've taken 4 examples. This DIY is the first one. So what do people want to see? What works from us when we create DIY content? It's time saving. Sometimes colloquial headlines. Don't be afraid to drop the F-mark into an article, because it makes it more personal. It makes people, we all do that, so it doesn't just have to be so formal, it can be colloquial. Cheap and easy, we all love that kind of cheap and easy, but don't sacrifice quality. That's the kind of things that we're publishing this kind of trend to really successful, we've seen real success in the last month. And bearing in mind, this is some trends from August. So this is right now, what we see, how we publish, what the journalists are being taught. What happens next month and the next few months, it can change quite rapidly. When it comes to beauty, and I think this is obvious but quite interesting, that when we're publishing beauty content, this new technique curiosity is incredibly successful. But people want to see other people doing it. They want to see visual examples, whether that's animated GIFs. They want to see people trying this stuff, trying this makeup, trying this technique before they do it themselves. Again, it harks back to this kind of using images and using GIFs to be able to tell a story. We also find that it includes all ethnicities and that representation of beauty, that Buzzfeed is good. We have this very honest policy, and I think this last book makes us have that ability to be very even across everything in the future. I put this one in because I have 2 young children, and I find Buzzfeed parenting content really useful. Now, the most interesting thing about this is that no one is right when it comes to parenting. And I think the web is telling us, the social web is telling us that there isn't one way of doing things. And what we find is that good parenting values is important. This is an amazing story about a dad whose daughter had a copy of the earth, and to make her feel great, he got a tattoo of exactly the same thing on his head. And it makes you feel great. It makes you feel warm as a parent. Don't be afraid to talk about the nitty-gritty, like really unique examples of parenting is a success. Parenting advice, but actually, probably the most important thing is that don't be afraid to allow people to comment, because, like I said, we don't know everything. And I think parents believe that they're going into information and they want information to make them better. I think that's a really important value. When it comes to tech, cool and useful, tips and tricks, not unsurprising. Actually, what I found was quite interesting from this trend report is that focusing on the now is more important. You see greater success in content of technology that we can share now, that exists now, as opposed to that future-facing stuff, the nostalgic things that people can buy right now, is things that we're publishing or doing better from a social. So lastly is about distribution, and this is the team called BFF that sit in Buzzfeed, and their sole reason is to understand behaviour in multiple platforms. So content's probably been talked a lot about in this week, but actually the most important thing is where it is and what format it takes. Because content becomes a huge vast variety of things. Actually, where is it working? And so these really kind of talented, creative individuals are taking things that we produce, cutting it down, taking pictures of them and trying it everywhere. So they're feeding that information back into us as a business and saying, well, actually, if you're going to publish in Snapchat, this is what you should do. And I always find that quite interesting that creative agencies will come to a brand and say, oh, we should make some vines, and they should look like this. But they're using it based on their own creative thoughts. They're actually not basing it on data. So you know what's working in these environments, and it is changing so rapidly on a monthly basis. So I wanted to share essentially a video that we produced out of LA. It's a branded video for Purina. Has anyone seen or heard of it? Yeah. It's done a good number of views. It's done about 21 million views as a video. But what we did with it and how we broke it down make it even bigger. And actually, those trends are quite important for people. I'm going to play it.
Dear kid, you've probably noticed that there's a new thing in the house. It is called a dog. I know this because before you, I had a best friend named Peanut. At first, I assumed Peanut was just a very ugly cat. Charming and terrible breath. Awful. So, here are some things that you need to know. Dear kid, imagine a cat. Now take away independence, cleanliness, and intelligence. What you have left is basically a dog. Here's an example. Yesterday, I saw the dog sitting on his butt, scooching forward with his front paws, and he looked over at me, and you know what he said? He said, "Check it out, I'm walking on 2 legs just like the peoples do." That gives you an idea of what we're dealing with. Dear kid, you might see me get a little ninja crazy time. Don't get freaked out. I'm just expressing dominance, which is, oh my, no, you are not good at that. That was actually worse. It looked like your spine just sneezed. No boy. Dear kid, you might hear the phrase, "a dog is a man's best friend." That is, frankly, incredible marketing on my part. They're certainly not buying ads in the newspaper. And have you seen what they do with newspapers? Trust me, it's the opposite of reading. I mean, they poop on them. Dear kid, the dog is the sort of creature that will decide whether it should put something in its nose by putting it in its mouth. That's the level of decision making. They basically eat everything. Case in point, butt paper. They even eat those weird brown, jagged pigments that the humans give us. Don't get mad. Let the dog eat all of our dry food. If it gets caught, it gets put in jail. We can enjoy the moist deliciousness of the can without interruption. It's a gambit. Dear kitten, you may hear the dog being referred to as a puppet, which I think is some sort of a French way of saying puppet. This explains why they attach that string to him from time to time. Worst marionette ever, if you ask me. The point is, if they try to put that string on you, just freeze. You don't want to get into show business. Trust me. Dear kitten, yes, the dog can be cuddly at times. I mean, just today he came over and started licking the inside of my ears. Was it weird? Yes. But also rather pleasant. Don't judge. When they get happy, stay to the front, because their tails become some sort of weird psycho furry sword. And I've seen them take the legs right out from under a baby. Dear kitten, our lives just got a bit more difficult, and alone time will be harder to find. But at least we can rest assured that the humans won't get too lonely during our naps. And perhaps that is enough. That's right, doggy. Bow down.
So this is essentially what we did with that content from a brand perspective. We published across sort of 6, 7 different networks. This is what that content looked like in Facebook. And actually what we found was that not using that video on Facebook, but actually using kind of really short animated GIF of that moment was performing really well, published by the brand. So you can kind of see that just moving slightly, just kind of a feed, it was kind of slightly more impactful than just an image. When it came to Twitter, it was much more visual. We found that visual examples and actually words were resonating at a higher rate. So you can see that there were just key moments, but on a really visual background. The Vines was a great place to play in because you could be far more creative. You didn't just have to cut that video, you could actually create new assets. But this first one was about catching the laser. Just seeing it on rotation as a great loop was a really good thing. I love the second one. So Vine was just a loop, just a little image from that video. Tumblrs was a cat map that we produced as a piece of illustration. What we found actually in Tumblr is that coloured writing on a black background performs really well. I mean, it's quite interesting to think that, but how would you know that unless you're publishing at a high level or a high rate? Snapchats are very basic. This is just humans, you from the cat, humans are weird. It was vertical, it was very, the production values were very low, but it represented how we publish, right? So it doesn't need to be so beautiful, it doesn't need these amazing Hollywood production values to work. And then infograms, we tested loads of things, loads of images, we found some like these were working really well, which is flashbacks from that, from the film itself, from the Uber. And that's it. And some key takeaways, I guess. I'd like to take some questions if we've got a bit of time. But some of the key takeaways that I'd love to share are does your content help you connect with each other? Does your content work internationally across multiple platforms? And that probably illustrates why this is about emojis, why this is about images. Does your content help people improve their lives? I mean, that's a deep, deep question. But you can ask that question. You can do this. You can create content that does this. And does your content help the world be more open and diverse? That's a key question.